Hi, everybody. This is Jesse Maxwell. I am a artist from Toronto, Canada, and this is an interview with Dusty Organ today.
That's right. Hello. Thanks for sitting down with me over Zoom today, Jesse.
Thank you so much for having me, Kane.
And the reason why I'm sitting down and talking with you, is because you just released a new single called "Undone," which certainly caught my attention. And that came out on Friday the 15th. So if you have not, go check it out. Although we'll be
Please
playing it on the
do.
podcast as well. But for people who don't really know who you are, I guess just kind of introduce your style of music and kind of what Undone is about.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard my music before, I highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah.
Music is something that I do every single day of my life. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about. My sound kind of varies. I like to I like to dabble with different sounds and genres and sound palettes all over the place, and in that frame make it cohesive. So the last project that I put out was very much like neo soul, some alternative R&B, some pop. This new project is I guess in the same type of vein, but in just it feels different. It feels like, I've been doing this for longer now. I've been honing my craft, and it feels, focused, and it feels like a very specific direction, and I really like that. Undone specifically, I really love this track, and I'm so excited that it's out because, you know, you'll ask any artist this, but they'll sit with this music forever. I've been sitting with this EP for like a year now, so I'm really excited to just get it out there and have people hear this new sound that I've been working on. So Undone specifically is instrumentally a pretty simple track, I guess. There's like four instruments, and we really wanted to keep it like, analog and natural. So, I don't want to put any synths in there. I didn't want to do any 808s, anything like that. I just wanted to keep it all real instruments. And the idea for the song was very random, actually. I went into it. Me and my co-producer had made this instrumental, and I we were planning on writing something else. I was gonna go into this thing that wasn't really working for the instrumental. It wasn't really like hitting the spot. So I was just kind of writing stream of consciousness one day, and I came up with this song called "Undone" for the instrumental, and it was basically about uh, internally recognizing things about yourself, and lying to yourself about them. So for me, it was sexuality, and there's a lot of people, whether it's that or whether it's something else, who can relate to this idea of when there's nobody else around and you're still lying to yourself, and you're kind of tricking yourself as to things are not true and who you're trying to fool because it's just yourself. So that's where the idea of the song came in. And I really like it. It's something to me, I've been told a lot with my music and what I try to do is keep it very honest, and just this idea of breaking down these walls of these things that we try to put up of a facade for other people, and I try to challenge that thought. So that's where the idea for the song came from.
Right on. And on terms of that kind of hiding from your true self, is that something that you've kind of only really come to terms with recently, like since writing the song in the last year, or are you able to say that I've kind of been able to accept myself more, even before that, or it's still kind of something new that you're working
Yeah, I
through?
think I would say that it for me, it's not really a now I've accepted it and now I can move on. It's kind of something that's ever evolving, and realizing that I'm growing, and I'm learning, and I'm accepting myself more every day. Where I don't know if there is a finish line with those things. It's kind of something that's a daily reprieve, and you kind of remind yourself that you're a good person, you're doing the best you can, and that at the end of the day is what's really important. So I think in the most part, yeah. And I'm it's something that I teach myself to love myself more every day, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's awesome. Yeah, and especially I feel like in last year, 2020, and it's still ongoing with the whole pandemic. I feel like a lot of people were able to kind of find the time to do that introspection, kind of come to terms
Absolutely.
more accelerated. So, did that? It's such a boring question, of how did the pandemic affect your music? But in in a way, how was that kind of, how was 2020 having that time to think about, your music, your life, and who you are? How was that kind of how has that prepared you for the next phase of, releasing this EP, releasing this single, and potentially, maybe going back on tour soon? Has that kind of helped you prepare yourself in any way?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a great question because, it's what everyone is dealing with right now. And for me, there was nothing else to do in this pandemic other than do music. So it really gave me a chance to like sit with myself and write so much music and just kind of unleash everything that's in my mind. The mind is a very powerful place sometimes, and it can keep things, in lock, and just to unleash that into, my form of doing that is music. So if I can get those thoughts out of my head and kind of live with them as a piece of art, I like that. So yeah, it gave me all the time to do that and to just sit with those thoughts and think about them and work through them and process them into the point where, now I can take them out and kind of make something of it and make it make sense.
Yeah. And the nice thing is too, I was reading as well about you, that not only were you able to kind of, find music for yourself, but you were able to actually share it with people during the pandemic, because your debut album, Radio Silence, came out last May 2020. And I also learned that you were able to perform it, or perform music, I should say, for people at a long-term care residence. Is that right?
Yeah.
How was that? Tell me about that. How was that? That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, you know what? It was really, really nice. It's little simple things like that really make a difference for people. And like, the setup was a little, was the like, I was playing outside and they were sitting inside, and there was like a glass wall, and I couldn't see any of them, but they could see me and I could hear them a little bit. And before I started, I like poked my head in and like said hi to them. But it was so nice. Like they were so excited and they had a great time. And like, it was just a really nice thing to do. And it made me feel really good because I felt that I made their days better in a time where there was a lot of struggling going on, and especially in those, in hospitals and long-term care facilities, everybody was freaking out, and
especially during those early months too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Cause it was new. Nobody wouldn't really knew what was going on. And like, there was people in there, they couldn't see their families and they don't really know how to use Zoom, or like, it's just, it was a really, really crazy time. So I thought it would be a really nice thing to do. And it really was, and like, so the residents were downstairs and some of the workers were upstairs on the second floor watching through the windows. It was just a really beautiful moment. And it showed me another case where, something as simple as music, and it was, it wasn't this crazy production. I was just there with a mic and my piano. And something as simple as that is able to have so much power. So it was great. It was really, really lovely.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, it's kind of like an extension of those viral videos of people, playing music from their balconies or their apartments for
Exactly.
all their neighbors to hear. But yeah. And the other fun thing too about that performance was it wasn't just your original music too. I understand that you were also playing, older hits from like the 40s and 50s, right?
Oh yeah. I wanted to give them what they wanted.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sure, play to the crowd. That's great.
They don't know my music, but they know Frank Sinatra and they know Glenn Miller. So I was like, okay, I'm going to play people like that.
Yeah. And that's a good segue, because I feel like, you having that music knowledge from a much different generation kind of stems from your quite extensive music background. Because I understand you were, Royal Conservatory graduate in Toronto.
Yes, sir.
So when did you start playing piano?
I was 6 years old.
Yeah,
and like, I don't know why, but all I wanted to do when I was 6 was play piano. And we had a little upright piano. So my parents, they found this like flyer of this dude in the mud randomly in front of our house and called him up, and he was my teacher for the next 10 years. And we did all the Royal Conservatory. Yeah, that's it's awesome. Crazy. It was, I don't know why. Like at 6 years old, there's many things to do, but I wanted to play classical music. My whole family is in classical music. So
oh wow, okay.
It was kind of something that I was drawn to.
That's funny, because I have a very similar story. Because I started playing. I'm not up to your level anymore at all, so don't worry.
It
But
might be.
but when I started playing when I was 6, and the only reason my dad was telling me this the other day, but the only reason why I started playing piano was because my older sister really wanted to. She was 8 at the time, and my
Okay,
parents were like, "Okay, we're gonna go for the 2-for-1 deal. You know, you get a half hour, she gets a half hour."
exactly.
And then, a year or two later, I'm still really enjoying it, and I've actually kind of surpassed my sister, and I'm still like very into it. And I remember, being at that young age, there's a lot of other things you want to do, but for me, and I feel like you might be able to relate to this, is every time I passed it by my piano that my parents bought, I had to sit down and play
Hmm.
for like at least, it turned out to probably be like, a half hour or an hour, but I'd see it and be like, ooh, that's much more fun. And I feel like that must have stuck with you that's kind of probably part of your personality now too, right?
Yeah, well, first of all, that's when you know you like it for sure. Because
Yeah.
when you're a kid, you do what you want, absolutely. And it's funny too, because I used to teach music for like 4 years. Um, and a lot of the kids that I taught were very, very young.
Yeah.
But when you teach them at that age, it's, they're at the point of their life where they're learning things for the first time. So you give them music and it's like a separate language and they pick it up so quickly sometimes. And it just sticks with them. You don't know why. It's crazy.
Was teaching fun? Did you enjoy that?
So much fun.
Yeah. Is it more
Yeah,
rewarding than performing your own stuff? Would you, compare the two, teaching and performing, what's more
it's
rewarding?
hard to compare really, but there's certain things that I get from each of them, like performing and writing and recording on my own stuff fills a part of me that nothing else does. Like it's really something internal for me and like very fulfilling. But there's something nice about passing on that knowledge to someone and you know building people up from these kids that have never learned piano before, and I'm feeding them all this knowledge.
Mhm.
And they're kind of like, there was this one kid I had who was absolutely incredible, and I was like, that's really cool because I was able to take what I know and shed light on it to this kid, and now he can do all these things, and that's insane. So there is something that's like unmatched about that for sure, because that's more, you're passing it on, and then they're going to pass it on hopefully, and like it kind of just keeps that cycle going.
Yeah. Did you ever do, I gotta ask, you ever do like competitions and stuff?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, it's because the idea of like a young kid picking something up really, really quickly reminded me. I think I was doing like a grade 5 or grade 6 level competition thing, and I
Okay.
was I was probably like 10 or 11 at this time, and there was a young girl who was about 6 years old, and she just destroyed us all, and it was just like every time I think
There's
of young
always
kids, there's
one.
always one. There's
That's
always
true.
one.
There's always one.
But oh, that's great. And so I know you're born and raised in Toronto,
Mm,
but you also spent some time in Brooklyn too. Which
I did.
how did you end up there? Like, what brought you to Brooklyn?
At the time of my life, actually, I wasn't doing music. I was cooking and fine dining. So I went to
Wow,
Brooklyn to study culinary arts. Um,
how was that? Was that
it
Did
was
it turn out
cool.
well or?
Yeah. It was very, I mean, it was a great experience. And it was such an interesting time of life because, you know, I had never gone away to school. So it was a fun, like, I get why people like it now, because it was like, you're just kind of living and going to school, and I was working, and like, it was an exciting part of life. And I was in a city that I didn't know anyone at first.
Yeah.
And it was sad when I left because I had all these friends who had become like family there. But it was an incredible experience. So I went down for school originally, and I linked up with this band called Queens County Roots, and I thought it
Cool.
was just gonna be like a fun little thing, and it turned into we were gigging like a few times a month, and it was so much fun. And the first gig that we had was like 3 hours, and I was so uncomfortable because I had never been on stage before like that.
A
And a
3 hour
3 hour
set.
set is just like at a bar.
Yeah.
And the musical entertainment for the night, but you still have to entertain and do stage banter. And like I was a nervous wreck. So but it was a good way to like throw me into it.
Yeah.
Um,
Were you at the front?
and
Were you the lead singer and everything?
I
I'm
was the
assuming.
front man. Yeah.
Yeah, from it. Okay.
I actually wasn't playing keys, and I play keys and sing, but I was just doing the front man over there. And it was a really, really great experience, and totally changed my life. And the songwriter, his name is Marlon Hurt, who was also the lead guitarist. When I started writing, which was down in New York, he was, helping me out, and he was listening to everything, and he was giving me tips and kind of like, very much formed me into the artist that I am today because he is absolutely incredible. So yeah, and it's funny too. I was talking about this the other day, how like certain things lead you into other things of your life, because I went down there for the culinary reason and I kind of left being like, okay, I want to do this music thing full time now.
When did that light bulb go off? Was it
It was like part way through.
Partway through your schooling in culinary school? Or
Part
did you
you know what, I started writing when I was in school, yeah, but it was closer to the end where I was still working in restaurants, and I was just writing like a bunch of material. I think in that first year I wrote like 100 songs. Not all of them are good by any means, but
yeah.
I was writing, and it was very exciting to me. And I had like a little, I had this tiny room in my apartment, and I would record everything there, and like all the sound would bounce off the walls, and it was like awful now that I listened to it, but it was really cool getting to discover that part of myself because I didn't know it was there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So do you still enjoy cooking, obviously, and stuff?
I do.
Yeah. What's your favorite dish to make?
Um,
Yeah, do you have one? Is that a tough question?
You know what? I like many different things right now. Well, before the pandemic, I was working at a wood fire pizza joint in Toronto.
Oh, nice.
And I loved it because for me, it kind of combined everything. Like it's baking and cooking because you're working with dough and then you're cooking the pizza, and like, it's so much fun for me. I really enjoy that.
Can you do any of the pizza throwing tricks or anything?
Oh yeah. They taught for the second. I was
that's
there,
awesome.
they're like, okay, so you're because it's an open kitchen, right?
Yeah.
So you want to show people, oh, I can like twirl the dough and stuff.
Yeah.
It's yeah, you need to.
That's awesome. I used to work in an Italian restaurant that some of the pizza chefs could do the same thing too, and people loved it. Like they would eat it up.
I know.
So yeah. This is perfect because I was going to ask too, because I recently started, getting on TikTok and stuff, which is I'm starting to feel old with the technology. But,
Same.
I saw that you recently got it too, and you were kind of lamenting about that, like, oh, I don't know what to do. But hey, maybe you can, start doing pizza tricks on your TikTok. There you go.
I could do pizza tricks, right? Yeah. You know what? I was very resistant to get TikTok. I don't know why, but I recently got it, and it's very fun. I do these videos where I'll like harmonize with myself 4 times on a song.
Yeah.
So much fun.
That's perfect. Like the whole duet.
Exactly. Because it's catered to
yeah,
that, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Are you just Jesse Maxwell on TikTok for people to find you?
Jesse Maxwell. Yeah. It's a JESSEMVXWELL is the same as my Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, that'd be fun. Hopefully I got to start coming up with more content and stuff too. It's such a weird, platform, but it's also very fun. I get stuck looking at it for like hours at a time.
Yeah, you know what? That's the thing too. You have to like, what I had to do for TikTok is like realize a specific niche that I had. So I was trying some different things at the beginning. I was like, I don't really know what to do. And then I was like, wait, I can make this page just duet with myself 4 times each video. And so you figure it out. So that's what you got to do.
That's good. I guess, and going back to your music too. So Undone, you said it's part of an EP that's coming out too. When's that releasing?
The EP is coming out in May.
In May as well. Okay.
Yeah. And there's going to be another single dropping in March. And I'm very excited about this project because this is the first project that I actually did a bunch of the sound engineering and the mixing on.
Oh,
because
cool.
before I wasn't. So this is something that I've been working on for a while, and it's just it's me and my co-producer Andreas, and we just did the whole thing together. So I'm really excited about that because it's something that I'm very proud of.
How was that experience, like mixing and engineering and stuff? Was that tough at
very,
first?
Very, very tough. I've been doing it now for a while, so I have a good grasp on it and a good understanding. But at the beginning, it was very difficult, especially because, like, again, like I didn't go to school. It's all self-taught stuff. So it was just like figuring it out, trial and error, experimenting, watching YouTube videos, all that stuff. So it was very, very difficult at first, but the biggest thing for me, I think, was like, because I have a lot of friends who make music as well. So talking to people about it and like understand, like if I have a question, I'm going to go to my friend and they're going to like explain things and other things around that, because that's the best way to understand it for sure. It's like see what other people are doing.
That's true. Yeah. You can only learn so much from, YouTube tutorials and then even just so much from, trial and error too on your own, which takes a lot of time, right? So
Exactly.
what's the EP called, by the way? I forgot to ask.
The EP is called Hellion.
Hellion. Right on,
Yeah.
right on. And I guess it's like a year, full year since Radio Silence, your album came out. And I know that Radio Silence was, there were some parts of it that were, very, very personal to you, that you were able to kind of unleash in music. And one of which was a song about your time in rehab and your addiction problems. And do you mind, kind of expanding on that?
Absolutely, yeah. So the song you're talking about is called "Room in Hell," and it was basically from the point of when I was spending my time in rehab, which was a lot of time. I had a lot of addiction issues, a lot of drug addiction issues when I was like a teenager, and for me, going back to that point of like being real with myself and keeping that authenticity in my music, I didn't feel right putting out that album without that song in it, even though it was something that was very revealing and it was very vulnerable and it was very specifically referencing, the time that I was addicted to drugs and who I had hurt and what life was like. So today I'm actually in March. It's going to be about 5 years sober, which is crazy to me because there's been so many things that have happened since I've been sober, and it's been really wonderful. But music for me is something that I found being sober helped me stay sober, which is why I think I do it so much, because it was not, I feel very connected to myself when I do music, but in the time of drug addiction, I was very disconnected from myself and from everything else. So it's something that it's something that I'm very open about, and I like talking about it because I am nobody special. And if I can change my life like this and do things that are productive for me, then I don't see why anyone can't. And that's why I want to, be that voice to tell people that they can, for sure.
That's amazing. And I guess kind of relaying this back to the song Undone, that sobriety, was that part of the reason why you were kind of able to, start to realize, it's obviously not a complete circle, but, start to realize who you were and part of like be more expressive of yourself?
Absolutely. There's a bunch of things like that, when you're kind of dosing yourself with drugs every day, you're numb everywhere. You don't understand anything about yourself. You're kind of pushing everything away. It's funny. Everyone says that like for when you get sober, when you started drugs, and until you got sober, that's the age where you pick it up from. So if I started using at like 16 and I got sober at 20, I'm really 16 in my mind, because I've all that time that I was using, I wasn't able to learn myself. I was kind of elsewhere mentally. So so things like Undone is just a part of, for me, it was a part of learning myself and being open and not disassociating from that feeling, which is the norm when you're numb all the time.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you've kind of started to catch up to your actual age in that sense?
I think so.
Yeah, hopefully. So. your music certainly has that maturity too, which is really nice, and has that like it's a truest form of like neo soul, where you're taking those old roots, I feel, and then you're bringing them with a more youthful flair and everything, which is probably part of the reason why I really enjoyed the song and it stuck out to me.
Thank you.
And very happy to share that with more people. Well, thank you very much, Jesse. I appreciate you sitting down. Do you have anything else you want to plug or mention for listeners?
All I would say is just go listen to Undone, go put your headphones in, enjoy the experience, and put it on repeat, because I think you'll love it. It's on all streaming platforms, so you can search Jesse Maxwell and you'll find it there.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Jesse.
Thank you, Kane, so much for having me on.